The influence of the Crusades on Western civilization and culture. Introduction. The Crusades stand as one of the most dramatic chapters of the medieval world, characterized by a potent mixture of religious fervor, political intrigue, and cross-cultural interaction. These campaigns, spanning from the late 11th to the late 13th century, were launched under the banner of reclaiming the Holy Land from Muslim rule. However, their influence extended far beyond the battles fought in Jerusalem, Antioch, and Acre. The Crusades shaped Western civilization in profound ways, touching upon aspects of governance, religion, economics, culture, and intellectual thought. Initially conceived as military expeditions to protect Eastern Christians and secure access to sacred pilgrimage sites, the Crusades quickly evolved into a complex phenomenon. They mobilized people across social strata, peasants, knights, and kings, while also establishing connections between Europe and the Islamic world. These encounters were not merely confrontational, but were marked by periods of exchange, trade, and mutual influence that enriched both sides. For medieval Europe, the Crusades offered opportunities for expansion, spiritually, territorially, and economically. They contributed to the growth of centralized monarchies, empowered the Catholic Church as a dominant institution, and catalyzed trade and urbanization. Simultaneously, the knowledge and cultural achievements of the Islamic world began to permeate Western thought, laying the groundwork for the Renaissance. Understanding the Crusades is key to understanding how medieval Europe transitioned into the early modern era. Despite their controversial legacy, they were a crucible for transformation, where conflict and cooperation coalesced into enduring impacts on Western civilization. The early context of the Crusades. To appreciate the transformative power of the Crusades, it is essential to examine the world in which they arose. By the late 11th century, Europe was a patchwork of feudal kingdoms, marked by frequent conflicts among lords and a fragmented political structure. The Catholic Church wielded significant spiritual and temporal influence, but faced challenges to its authority from both within and outside Christendom. The Byzantine Empire, the eastern bastion of Christianity, was under increasing pressure from the expanding Seljuk Turks, who had captured key territories and threatened Constantinople itself. The Islamic world, on the other hand, was thriving. It was a time of intellectual, artistic, and scientific flourishing, often referred to as the Islamic Golden Age. Cities like Baghdad, Damascus, and Cairo were centers of learning and culture. However, political divisions existed within the Muslim world, including rivalries between Sunni and Shia factions, and the Crusaders would later exploit these fractures to their advantage. The immediate spark for the Crusades was Pope Urban II's call to arms at the Council of Clermont in 1095. In his speech, Urban appealed to the knights and nobility of Europe, urging them to take up arms not against one another but against the infidels who controlled Jerusalem. His rhetoric was both spiritual and practical, promising the remission of sins for those who participated and framing the campaign as a defense of Christendom. The response was overwhelming. Tens of thousands of men and women from all walks of life pledged themselves to the cause, donning the cross as a symbol of their commitment. This wave of enthusiasm, later termed the First Crusade, culminated in the capture of Jerusalem in 1099, a victory marked by both triumph and tragedy, as the Crusaders carried out a bloody massacre of the city's Muslim and Jewish inhabitants. The Crusades and the transformation of Western society. The consequences of the Crusades for Western society were far-reaching. One of the most immediate effects was the strengthening of the Catholic Church. By framing the Crusades as a holy mission, the papacy consolidated its authority, uniting disparate European factions under a common cause. This increased influence allowed the Church to play a more active role in political affairs, shaping the policies of kings and nobles. Another significant impact was the decline of the feudal system. Many lords sold or mortgaged their lands to finance their expeditions, inadvertently transferring power and wealth to centralized monarchies. Kings, in turn, used the Crusades as an opportunity to assert greater control over their realms. For example, England's Richard the Lionheart and France's Louis IX leveraged their roles as crusading leaders to bolster their reputations and legitimacy. Economically, the Crusades spurred growth in trade and commerce. The need to supply armies and transport goods led to the expansion of Mediterranean trade networks. Cities like Venice, Genoa, and Pisa became thriving hubs of commerce, facilitating the exchange of goods such as spices, silk, and precious metals. These interactions introduced Europeans to products and technologies previously unknown, fueling economic diversification and laying the foundation for the later age of exploration. Culturally, the Crusades facilitated a profound exchange of knowledge and ideas. European crusaders encountered the sophisticated urban centers of the Islamic world, where advancements in science, medicine, and philosophy were preserved and expanded upon. The transmission of classical texts, many of which had been lost to the West, reinvigorated European scholarship. Works by Aristotle, Ptolemy, and Galen, translated into Latin from Arabic, became cornerstones of medieval education. The establishment of military orders like the Knights Templar and the Hospitallers also had a lasting impact. These organizations combined martial prowess with religious devotion, serving not only as defenders of the Holy Land, but also as financiers and administrators. Their wealth and influence extended across Europe, and their legacy can be seen in later institutions, including modern banking systems. The cultural exchange. One of the most enduring legacies of the Crusades was the cultural exchange that occurred between East and West. While the Crusades are often remembered for their violence and destruction, they were also a period of contact and interaction that enriched both civilizations. Science and technology. European crusaders were exposed to advanced Islamic knowledge in fields such as astronomy, medicine, and engineering. The introduction of Arabic numerals, algebra, and navigational tools like the astrolabe revolutionized European mathematics and science. These innovations would later play a critical role in the technological advancements of the Renaissance. Art and architecture. Islamic art and architecture influenced European styles, particularly in the Gothic period. The pointed arch, a hallmark of Gothic cathedrals, is believed to have been inspired by Islamic architecture. Decorative motifs, such as intricate geometric patterns and arabesques, also found their way into European design. Literature and storytelling. The ideals of chivalry and romance, which became central to medieval European literature, were partly shaped by the experiences of the Crusaders. Tales of heroism, exotic lands, and cultural encounters fueled the imagination of writers and poets, leading to works like the Arthurian legends and the Chansons de Geste. Cultural exchange, science, knowledge, and intellectual revival. While the Crusades are often remembered for their military campaigns, one of their most profound and lasting impacts was the transmission of knowledge between the Islamic world and Europe. The Muslim-controlled regions of the Middle East and North Africa were home to some of the most advanced civilizations of the time. As the Crusaders encountered these cultures, they were exposed to a treasure trove of knowledge and innovations. Scientific advancements. In the Islamic world, scholars had preserved and expanded upon the works of ancient Greek, Roman, and Persian thinkers. Figures like Avicenna, Ibn Sina, and Averroes Ibn Rushd had written extensively on subjects such as medicine, philosophy, and astronomy. Crusaders returning to Europe brought back not only goods but also manuscripts and ideas. These works, translated from Arabic into Latin, revolutionized European learning. For example, Avicenna's Canon of Medicine became a foundational text in European medical schools for centuries. Islamic advancements in optics, as documented by Al-Hazan, Ibn al-Haytham, influenced the development of European scientific methods. The reintroduction of Aristotelian philosophy through Islamic scholars spurred intellectual movements like scholasticism, which sought to reconcile reason and faith. Thinkers such as Thomas Aquinas built upon these ideas, laying the groundwork for the later scientific revolution. Engineering and navigation. The Crusades also facilitated the adoption of advanced engineering techniques. The use of the astrolabe and improvements in shipbuilding, influenced by Islamic designs, were crucial for European exploration. These tools would later enable figures like Vasco da Gama and Christopher Columbus to undertake their voyages of discovery. The economic impact of the Crusades. The Crusades reshaped the economic landscape of Europe in several ways. From stimulating trade to fostering the growth of towns and cities, these campaigns had far-reaching implications for medieval economies. Growth of trade and commerce. One of the most immediate economic effects was the expansion of trade networks. As Crusaders traveled to the Middle East, They encountered luxury goods such as spices, silk, glassware, and textiles. These items became highly sought after in Europe, leading to the growth of commercial hubs in cities like Venice, Genoa, and Florence. The Italian city-states, in particular, capitalized on the demand for Eastern goods, establishing lucrative trade routes that extended into Asia and North Africa.